The moment Kelly slapped the wine glass out of my hand and screamed, "Don't you dare embarrass me again, Salvador!" In front of her entire family, I knew I had never been anything more than a placeholder. The room went silent. The sound of glass shattering across the marble floor was nothing compared to the echo of her words in my ears. Dozens of guests turned, most pretending not to watch while leaning in to catch every second. Her father looked away. Her mother sighed as if she'd seen this coming. And there I stood, in a suit I had borrowed just for her father's birthday banquet, with red wine dripping down my wrist. Kelly adjusted the strap of her dress and took a deliberate step back, like I was something to be avoided. "You really thought I'd let you speak tonight?" she said, her tone sharp, measured. "This dinner is for people who matter, Salvador. You're not one of them." I didn't say a word. I just stared at her, wondering how we got from long walks after class to this ballroom full of disdain. Behind her, leaning against the bar with a smirk on his lips, was Tim, the guy she always insisted was like a cousin. He raised his glass and mouthed, "Tough luck, man." Kelly turned around and walked back to him without a second glance. The way she tucked herself under his arm, the way she laughed like nothing had just happened, it broke something inside me. But I didn't make a scene. I didn't beg. I didn't shout. I looked down at my empty hand, brushed the broken glass away with a napkin, and said quietly, "Thank you for finally showing me." Then I walked out. No one stopped me. No one called after me. They all just watched me go like a waiter who had dropped a tray. Outside, the cold air hit my face harder than her words ever could. I took off the jacket, tossed it into the trunk, and sat behind the wheel with my hands shaking. I had no money, no power, and no reputation, but I had something far more dangerous: a reason. Back then, I was the man who would show up outside Kelly's classroom with 2 umbrellas just in case she forgot hers. I was the one who stayed up all night helping her rehearse investor pitches, even though I had work the next morning. I wasn't born into wealth. I didn't carry a last name that opened doors, but I showed up every single time she needed someone. When her grandfather died, I stood behind her through the entire funeral, holding her hand even as her family looked at me like I didn't belong. When her mother fell ill, I picked up prescriptions, cooked meals, and waited outside the hospital until she came out to cry in my arms. But none of that ever made me part of her world. I was always just slightly outside the circle, close enough to be used, but never invited in. We met in university. She was the girl with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue, always sitting front row with perfectly styled notes and a schedule packed with networking events. I was a scholarship kid with 2 part-time jobs and a second-hand laptop. Our paths should never have crossed, but they did. She needed help with a thesis project, and I was the only one in class who could code the app she was designing. We worked together late into the nights, side by side in cafes, sharing cold coffee and ramen. That's when I saw the side of her no one else did. The way her voice softened when she was tired, how she rubbed her thumb against her wrist when she was anxious. The girl beneath the armor. One night, after weeks of working together, she looked at me and asked, "Why do you try so hard, Salvador? You're not getting paid for this." I smiled and said, "Because I want you to succeed." She didn't reply, but that night she walked me home in the rain, even though it soaked her heels and ruined her blowout. That was our beginning. For a while, it felt real. When I held her hand at campus events, when she texted me just to say she missed me, when she asked me what kind of ring I'd want her to wear one day, I believed it all. But now I realize I was just something she clung to during the climb. A comfort, a crutch. The signs were always there, like how she never invited me to her family's summer estate, saying it was complicated. Or how she never once posted about me on her social media, though I took hundreds of photos for her. And how every time someone important called, she would step away and lower her voice, pretending she was alone. Still, I stayed. Not because I was naive, but because I loved her. Fully. Blindly. Even when she forgot my birthday and only remembered halfway through dinner, I told myself she was just stressed. Even when she once left me stranded outside a gala because Tim showed up unexpectedly, I forgave her with a smile. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. Until the night of her father's birthday banquet, when the glass hit the floor and she didn't flinch. That was the night I stopped. Driving through the city, I passed the cafe where we once sat for hours building her pitch deck. It was closed now, windows dark, chairs stacked. Still, I parked across the street and just stared at it through the windshield. Memories can be the cruelest kind of ghosts. They don't scream. They just sit quietly beside you, reminding you what used to be. My phone buzzed beside me. An unknown number I almost didn't answer. But then I did. Salvador? A woman's voice, calm, steady, and unexpectedly familiar. It's Leanne. I blinked, confused. Leanne? Kelly's sister. We met once, at your graduation dinner. Of course, Leanne, the younger one, the one who had left for business. School overseas just as Kelly and I started dating. She had been different. While Kelly chased attention, Leanne always stayed quiet, observing. I heard what happened, she continued, her voice low. It's all over social media, the video, the wine. I said nothing. Then she added, I never liked how Kelly treated you. You were always the one giving, always the one standing in the shadows. I almost hung up. I didn't need pity, not now, but then she said something that stopped me cold. You don't have to fight this alone. If you're ready to stop being the man people overlook, call me back. And with that, she hung up. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, staring at that number on the screen. I wasn't sure what she meant. I didn't know what she wanted. But something about her voice, steady, unwavering, stayed in my mind. That night, I went home and packed everything Kelly ever gave me into a box. Photos. Cards, the tie she bought me when I landed my first job, the watch I wore to our anniversary dinner. I didn't throw them out. I didn't burn them either. I just locked them away. Not because I couldn't let go, but because I finally had. The next time I saw Kelly, she was on a yacht. Not just any yacht, Tim's. Branded in his family's name, draped in silver lighting, anchored off the coast of Coral Bay like it had parked itself on top of the world. I hadn't planned on being there. I didn't belong at luxury networking galas filled with billionaires, influencers, and trust fund heirs. But a friend of Leanne's, one of those rare people who knew the game but didn't play it, invited me as their +1 to the private event. You'll want to be there, Leanne had texted that morning. Just watch. I had my doubts, but I showed up. The yacht swayed gently under the moonlight. Music echoed off the open water. Glasses clinked. People smiled with rehearsed perfection. And there she was. Kelly. Leaning over the deck rail in a backless silver gown, her fingers laced with Tim's. Laughing like the world had always belonged to her. Like I had never existed. But I saw it. The flicker in her eyes when she spotted me. The way her laughter cut off mid-note. The way she stiffened in Tim's arms just slightly. Salvador? She said, as if my name tasted foreign. Tim turned around with a slow grin. Didn't think we'd see you here. What's the occasion? Bartending? I smiled. Just observing. Kelly forced a laugh. Well, you're certainly underdressed for observation. She looked at me like I was the past she'd already rewritten, erased, edited, forgotten. But she didn't know I wasn't here to win her back. I was here to witness the lie fall apart. Tim leaned closer, voice low. You really should leave, man. Some circles aren't meant for everyone. I raised an eyebrow. Is that what you told her? Before or after you replaced me? Kelly shot him a warning look, but it was too late. That's when I saw it. The crack. The way she didn't hold Tim's gaze. The way her shoulders dropped when she thought no one noticed. The way she sipped her drink like it was an escape. The party moved on, but I didn't. Later that night, I caught her alone by the bar as the crowd drifted to the dance floor. "You don't look happy," I said. She flinched. "What do you want, Salvador?" "An answer," I said quietly. "When did you decide I wasn't enough?" She looked down, fiddling with the straw in her glass. "I didn't decide. I just realized. You don't understand what pressure feels like. My family expects someone who can keep up, someone who can protect our name." I leaned in slightly. "So you chose Tim?" She hesitated. "Tim has the right pedigree, the right connections, but not the right heart." She didn't respond, so I asked the question I had buried for months. "Was it always him?" Kelly didn't look at me. "The night I told you I had to work late, I was with him." I felt the floor tilt, not from the waves, but from her honesty. She had chosen him long before she told me she hadn't. I nodded slowly. "I gave you everything. I didn't ask you to." That hurt more than the lie ever did. I walked away without saying another word. Outside, the wind was picking up. Waves crashed harder against the yacht's hull. I pulled my coat tighter and made for the docks, but I didn't get far. Leanne was waiting by the car. "I saw the look in her eyes," she said, stepping closer. "She's still unsure." "I'm not," I replied. Leanne nodded. Then we moved forward. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't like her sister. No makeup tonight, no pretense. Just clear eyes and a calm voice that didn't waver. "I need to know," I said. "Why are you helping me?" She didn't smile. "Because I know what it's like to be dismissed, and because some people need to be reminded what they lost." I didn't say anything. She opened the passenger door. "Get in. I have something to show you." We drove in silence until we pulled up outside a sleek high-rise downtown. She led me to the 18th floor, where a private meeting was being held. Inside, 4 men in tailored suits and 1 woman with steel gray hair turned to look at us. "Salvador," Leanne said, "these are my partners." I blinked. "Partners?" She smiled now, just a little. "We're acquiring Tim's company." I stared at her. She walked forward and handed one of the men a file. "And Salvador here? He owns the patent Tim's firm can't survive without." The room was dead silent. The woman in the gray suit raised an eyebrow. "Is that true?" I nodded once. In that moment, I understood everything. Leanne hadn't just been watching. She'd been planning. I couldn't sleep that night. Even after Leanne dropped me off, even after I showered and tried to shut the world out, my mind wouldn't. "Quiet down." I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, remembering everything Kelly said. "I didn't ask you to." It played in my head like a broken record. I wasn't angry anymore. That had burned out long ago. Now there was just this strange, heavy emptiness. Like everything I had believed in had been quietly dismantled while I stood there, too loyal to notice. What haunted me most wasn't that she had chosen someone else. It was how easily she discarded me. Not with guilt, not with struggle, but with complete detachment. Like I had simply expired. She'd looked into my eyes and handed me the truth like it was nothing. And for the first time, I wondered if all the warmth she used to show me had ever been real, or if I had imagined it all along. I turned over and shut my eyes, but sleep didn't come. Instead, memories did, her hand in mine after her pitch competition. The way she once told me, "I trust you more than anyone else." The first time she fell asleep on my shoulder. The way she used to whisper my name like it meant something. Were those moments just placeholders? Until someone like Tim came along? I hated that I still missed her voice. I hated that even now, part of me still wondered if she would call. I hated that I didn't hate her. The next morning, I skipped breakfast and drove. No destination, just motion. City after city block. Passed as I tried to outrun the ache that settled just beneath my ribs. I parked near the old public library, our favorite spot during exam season. The building was under renovation now, covered in scaffolding. but I could still see the bench where we once sat for hours, arguing over her pitch title and laughing over nothing. I hadn't realized how tightly I was gripping the steering wheel until my fingers started to ache. I let go and breathed. Everything inside me felt torn in two. One half wanted to erase her name from every memory, the other still loved her. That's what hurt the most. Not her betrayal, not even Tim, but the part of me that still longed for who I thought she was. I closed my eyes and leaned my head back. "You can't stay stuck here, Salvador," I whispered. I thought of Leanne, her quiet confidence, the way she didn't offer pity, only clarity. She didn't look at me like a man broken. She looked at me like someone unfinished. My phone buzzed. Hesitated, then picked it up. It was a message from Kelly. "We need to talk. No punctuation, no warmth." I stared at it for a long time, then turned off the screen. An hour later, I found myself at Leanne's office. She didn't ask why I was there. She simply stood, handed me a cup of coffee, and said, "Rough night?" I nodded. Still thinking about her, I didn't answer. She studied me for a moment, then walked to her desk. Closure isn't something they give you, it's something you decide for yourself. I looked down at the floor. She sent me a message. Leanne paused. "And?" I didn't reply. Her voice softened. "Good." I looked up. "You really think I can move on?" Leanne tilted her head. "I don't think you have a choice. If you stay stuck in the version of yourself that she needed, weak, waiting, loyal to a fault, you'll keep bleeding for someone who never deserved your wounds." I swallowed hard. Then she added, "But if you let go of the man she used and become the man you were always meant to be, she'll never stop regretting it." I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. Before I left, she handed me a flash drive. Blueprints, financials, everything Tim's company will lose when we take that patent public. I stared at it. "You're not doing this out of revenge," she said. "You're doing it to rebuild, but if it hurts them on the way up, so be it." As I stepped out into the street, the cold air felt different, sharper, clearer. I looked at the drive in my hand and realized something. Kelly may have been my past, but she wasn't my story. Not anymore. The news broke 3 days later. Tim's company had just lost a government contract worth over $30 million, terminated overnight due to a technical licensing issue. But I knew the truth. It wasn't technical. It was deliberate. The patent I owned, the one at the core of their newest proposal, was now officially registered under my name and removed from all pending partnerships. The moment we went public with it, every investor connected to Tim's firm began pulling out like rats from a sinking ship, and still, he didn't know I was behind it. Not yet, but Kelly did. She showed up at my apartment without warning, dressed in black, her expression tight. "You planned this?" she said, her voice low but shaking. "You knew what you were doing." I didn't flinch. "No, I just stopped being your stepping stone." She stepped inside, uninvited, like she still had that right. "You're destroying him." "No," I said. "He's destroying himself. I'm just not saving him." Her eyes flashed. "You really think this makes you better than him?" "No," I replied calmly. "It makes me free." For a moment, she stood there, lips parted like she was about to say something else. But then, she noticed the documents on my coffee table. Corporate forecasts, expansion charts, a new office blueprint with Leanne's name signed at the bottom. Her face fell. "You're working with Leanne?" she said slowly, almost in disbelief. I didn't respond. She laughed once, bitterly. "So that's what this is. Payback. Using my sister against me." "Leanne chose to stand beside me," I said. "No one forced her." She didn't hide the contempt now. "You're pathetic." "Then why are you here?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she said the one thing I never expected. He asked me to marry him. I didn't move. Kelly crossed her arms and added, "He gave me the ring last night, even after all this, even after everything collapsing around him. I said nothing. She leaned forward, searching my face for something. Pity, jealousy, regret. Do you have anything to say? She asked. I looked her dead in the eye. I hope you say yes. She blinked. What? I stood. Because you two deserve each other. He's the man you chose over loyalty, over love, over truth. So marry him. Share his ruin. Wear the ring with pride while everything underneath it burns. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. Maybe she didn't. Maybe that was the point. She opened her mouth again, but before she could speak, a voice called from outside the hallway. Salvador? Kelly froze. It was Leanne. Kelly turned, eyes wide as Leanne stepped into the apartment, her coat draped over, one arm holding 2 coffees. Kelly's gaze dropped to the drinks. 2 cups, 2 people. Leanne met her sister's stare without blinking. You're not the only one who knows what Salvador is worth. Kelly's breath hitched, and just like that, the air between them snapped. She turned on her heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Leanne set the coffees down and gave me a long look. Well, that was bound to happen. I exhaled, slower than I intended. You okay? She asked. No, I admitted, but I was getting there. The shareholders' meeting for Tim's company was scheduled on a Friday morning. I hadn't planned to attend. I'd already done what I came to do. Their collapse was unfolding, slow and inevitable. Contracts terminated, lawsuits piling up, investors disappearing one by one. The patent Leanne and I released under public licensing terms had killed any exclusivity they could promise. But then I got the email, anonymous sender, no subject line, just one attachment, a photo. Tim, sitting at the boardroom table, flanked by 2 men in suits, and Kelly, standing behind him with a folder in hand, her face angled downward but unmistakable. She was back in his company, and not just watching. Representing. I called Leanne. I know, she said before I could speak. She's injecting Liu family capital into his company. Her father signed off on it yesterday. I stayed quiet. She's trying to save him, Leanne added. And just like that, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. Kelly wasn't here to beg for love. She was here to win, even if she had to stand in the ashes to do it. At 9:45 a.m., I walked into the glass building downtown. By 10 hours, I was sitting in the back of the boardroom, silent, unnoticed, invisible, but watching everything. Tim looked worse than I expected. His eyes were sunken, his tie was crooked, and his voice trembled slightly when he addressed the room. Kelly sat beside him now, looking calm and polished in a dark navy suit. She glanced around at the executives like she had always belonged there. We believe this new proposal, Tim said, motioning toward the screen behind him, will stabilize operations and attract new backers. With support from the Liu Group and a strategic pivot, we'll be positioned to rebound within the quarter. Some nodded, some didn't. I watched silently as Kelly took the mic. In addition to capital injection, she said smoothly, we've secured a list of influencers and media partners willing to rehabilitate our public image. Her words stopped, mid-sentence, because I stood up, slowly. She locked eyes with me, and for a moment, nothing else in the room mattered. Sorry, I said. I didn't know this was a family affair. I'll wait outside. A few people chuckled awkwardly. Tim stood quickly, jaw tight. You have no right to be here. Actually, I said, reaching into my jacket, I do. I pulled out the legal envelope and handed it to the woman at the end of the table. My company just acquired the largest unpaid debt your firm defaulted on last week. That makes me your newest stakeholder. Dead silence. Kelly looked at the envelope like it might explode. Tim's face was pale. The woman flipped through the document and nodded. It's legitimate. Great, I said, walking forward. Then I suppose I can speak now. Tim tried to block me with his body. You planned this? I smiled. No, Tim. I adapted. Kelly finally spoke. What do you want? I turned to her. I want you to stop pretending, I said. Stop acting like this is about saving the company. Or Tim. You're here because you can't stand the idea that I built something stronger without you. Her eyes narrowed, but her lips stayed silent. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You didn't come back for him. You came back because I didn't fall apart like you hoped I would. Tim scoffed. Don't flatter yourself. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at her. Tell me something, Kelly. When you see me now, standing here holding your fiancé's future in my hand, do you still think I was the one who didn't belong? She didn't answer, because she couldn't. Behind her confidence was a storm of doubt. I saw it now. Every fake smile, every carefully calculated move, it was armor. Because deep down, she knew she'd bet on the wrong man. Again. Tim turned to her. You said you handled everything. You told me he couldn't touch us anymore. Kelly didn't respond. He slammed his hand on the table. Answer me. I stepped between them. Don't raise your voice at her. Not when I'm standing here. Tim went quiet. Not because of fear, but because he knew what I'd done was irreversible. The woman at the end of the table cleared her throat. Mr. Salvador Wang now holds 26% of your outstanding liabilities. If he chooses to call in those debts, I'm not calling them in, I interrupted. Not yet. I looked around the room. I want to make something clear. I'm not here to ruin you. I turned back to Kelly. I'm just here to return the favor, and then I walked out. I didn't wait for applause. I didn't care what they said once I left. I didn't look back. Outside, Leanne was waiting by the elevator, arms crossed. Well? She asked. They know now, I said. She looked at me for a moment, then smiled faintly. You finally look like you're breathing again. I am. That night, I sat on my apartment balcony with a glass of wine. Not to celebrate, not to mourn, just to exist, for once, without noise. And then my phone buzzed. Kelly. You didn't have to humiliate me. I stared at the message, then typed back, neither did you. But you did. No reply. I set the phone down and looked at the city below. For so long, I thought closure came from an apology, from some dramatic breakdown or teary confession. But that was wrong. Closure was seeing the person who broke you finally realize they never had the power to define you. 2 weeks passed. In those 2 weeks, Tim's company went into a full spiral. Suppliers backed out, investors froze assets. The board demanded emergency restructuring, and the media, always thirsty for downfall, circled like vultures. But what no one saw coming, what Kelly definitely didn't see, was what happened next. Her father's company, Liu Holdings, had quietly co-signed several of the investment agreements, backing Tim's firm, and when Tim defaulted, the penalties fell on Liu Holdings like bricks through glass. 3 government tenders revoked, credit lines suspended, public reputation tarnished overnight, and at the center of it all was Kelly, who, in a desperate attempt to protect Tim, had dragged her own family into ruin. I didn't lift a finger to cause it. I just didn't stop it. That was enough. It was Leanne who showed me the reports. We were sitting in the top-floor conference room of our new office tower, the windows stretching across the skyline. She slid the files over without a word. I flipped through them slowly. Photos of the Liu family mansion up for sale, records of staff layoffs, a press clipping. Liu Holdings pulls out of national bid after financial instability. At the end was a photo. Kelly. She was leaving a courtroom. Head low, face hidden behind sunglasses, her expression unreadable. I stared at it for a long time. Leanne sipped her coffee and said, "She lost everything." "She chose to gamble," I replied. "I just let the dice roll." She nodded. "You think she regrets it?" I looked at the photo one more time, then slid it away. Doesn't matter. I meant it. That night I got a call, a number I hadn't saved but knew by heart. I almost let it ring. But I picked up. Salvador. Her voice was quieter now. No edge, no pride, just tired. Kelly, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't. Silence. I didn't know Tim would. She trailed off. Use you. I finished. She didn't answer. I waited. Then she said, He's gone. Gone where? Disappeared. After everything collapsed, he emptied what was left of the shared account and vanished, left me to face the mess alone. I didn't flinch. Sounds familiar, she exhaled shakily. My dad won't speak to me. My mom's sick again, and I lost everything. There it was. The voice that once stood on. Stages now trembled through a phone line. I was wrong, she said. You were the only real thing in my life. You threw me away like I was nothing. I was scared. I didn't think you'd ever be more than... Than what? She whispered it. Than useful. It didn't even hurt anymore. I let her sit in the silence. Then she asked, Can I see you? No. Please, just once. I looked out at the night sky. No, Kelly. You don't get to come back when the storm clears. I don't want money. I know. You want memory. You want relief. You want to believe someone still sees the girl you used to be. She broke then. I heard it in the way her breath hitched. I'm sorry, she said. I really am. I believed her. But it didn't change anything. I said, I hope one day you become someone worth forgiving. Then I ended the call. No rage, no satisfaction, just peace. And that was enough. A week later, I flew to Venice with Leanne for a partnership summit. Our company was expanding into Europe. Investors were waiting. Presentations were scheduled. But for once, I didn't feel like I was playing catch-up. I belonged. On the third night, Leanne stood beside me on the hotel balcony, watching the canal lights flicker across the water. Did it help? She asked. Did what help? Saying no. I thought about it. Saying no didn't heal me, I said. But it reminded me I could. She smiled faintly. You know, she said, when I first heard about you, I thought you were weak. I was. No. You were just holding on too tightly to people who didn't deserve your hands. She turned toward me, fully now. And what about now? I looked at her. At the woman who walked beside me when the world turned away. At the one who never asked me to prove myself because she already saw me. Now? I said. Now I only hold what holds back. Her smile widened. Then we're good. The next morning, we signed a 3-year expansion deal with one of Europe's most prestigious venture boards. The company name was printed in bold on the top of the contract, Wang and Naira Innovations. Leanne had renamed the company. Quietly, without telling me, I raised an eyebrow. You didn't ask me, she shrugged. Didn't think I needed to. I stared at the paper for a while, then signed it. When we stepped out into the sunlit plaza, a photographer snapped a photo for the business page. That image would appear on dozens of articles in the coming months. 2 people walking side by side, wind catching their hair, success behind their eyes. Not revenge, not pain, but victory. The quiet kind. The kind that needs no explanation. That was the day the world stopped, calling me her ex and started calling me what I'd always been, my own name.